This is Near Enough to Hell, Ghost of El Paso story, part 5. We're down Daniel this week, so Arkansas is ill with tummy aches due to drinking Ghost Begun and having some sort of weird reaction to it, but that's all good. We just summarized a little bit off recording just to kind of catch Wes up to speed about the current state of things, and we had ended previously setting up the night phase, and we have Graves kind of doing a stakeout on the First Bank of El Paso, especially after its grand opening, and its manager made taunting claims, kind of essentially daring the Daisy Man to attempt to rob them in their state of the art security. Yeah, exactly. West frozen in his exact perfect moment of a Donald Sutherland impression. Incredible. And then we had Andrew Harrington wanting to go break into the bounty hunters' rooms at the Riverview Hotel, and it seems like Mother Ruth will be joining him in that endeavor, whether he likes it or not. We did assign the unseen previously, so without further ado, we're going to kick things off with the first prompt on the Ghost Beyond Unseen, which is to paint the scene. But first, let's reintroduce it. The Pryor family lives on a small homestead just outside of town. They have purchased a bottle of Ghost Beyond in order to protect themselves from the ghost of a cattle rustler they've been dealing with for the past few nights. Let's paint the scene. Looking around the Pryor home, how do we know they have tried just about everything to make the ghostly cattle rustler go away?
They've put up little twig shapes that look like people around the perimeter of the home.
All the windows, all the doors leading into the outside have little wind chimes, so like if they ever open, they will know.
There have been vigils of people praying, trying to get this ghost to go away for the more religious, and you can actually see like their little spots where they've like left their rosaries and their prayer books and the marks where their knees were kneeling on the dirt.
The Riverview Hotel is a 3-story building and is by far the most expensive hotel in El Paso. Inside, it has a central staircase that goes all the way up to the 3rd floor. The front desk has brass trim and a tiny little bell to ring if no one is around, but there is a bellhop behind it. Let's paint the scene about the Riverview Hotel. What unappreciated, impractical extravagances do the staff constantly have to protect from the dust, climate, or violence of El Paso? What details of the bellhop's uniforms are ridiculous here in a small town in the Southwest?
Velvet. The bellhops are in just this lush velvet, and it is the most impractical fabric possible. And the same with the curtains that they just have to constantly bang the dust out of. It's it's a heinous job.
It's I I would say that the hotel wouldn't describe it as being sort of practical measures to combat the heat and whatnot, or at least to maintain the image of their hotel as being pristine. But they have like stocks of like deodorant, and like they put way too much their budget on it because everybody's just really sweaty here.
The bellhops have massive epaulets that would rival a sea admiral, that have the little fringes and everything. Uh, and that actually does go in tandem with a massive portrait of this of like it within the hotel, um of the hotel chain's founder. because the Riverview Hotel is actually a chain, and that is Vice Admiral Riverview of the United States Navy that you see hanging a large portrait where you can tell there are bullet holes that have been plugged up right behind it. It's a little bit of like series of unfortunate events style.
Yeah, very, very
Summary.
fucking oh god, what's that one? The Airsats Elevator. Yeah. Yeah. That book series was my childhood obsession. Um, Incredible. Outside the Riverview Hotel, we'll have Marshal Harrington walking up, and I think I want to have a quick little scene of Mother Ruth striding up, catching you unawares, and inserting herself into your night. So, set up that scene and role play a little bit.
Nice night for setting, Marshal.
Hmm.
As I think you're like probably across the
Yeah.
across the street.
Yeah, we see like a coach like pass by, and it's like Mother Calvo just there.
Mother Calvo, it's interesting to see you here tonight.
I've told you before, Marshal, you can call me Mother Root if you want to.
It's only in certain circumstances that I would call it that. But still, does God whisper you the things I do at all?
No, not this evening. I just saw you with trouble on your face and trouble in your heart staring at this hotel. Couldn't help but notice there was a gentleman asking around town for ye for the past day. He seems to be staying in this place. Yours being here wouldn't have anything to do with that gentleman, now would it?
It's just an unfortunate circumstance of mistaken identity, but you know what I've done in the past. And you need to know that if this town doesn't have a marshal, it will go to disarray very, very quickly.
So it seems to me that you need some help with making sure that this mistaken identity business is cleared up then.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cut away to down the street, probably not even very far. Probably not at all. Graves moving through the streets of El Paso, bound for the First Bank of El Paso to do a stakeout. Only, I'm sorry, Graves, that probably won't be happening the way you wanted tonight. Something is waylaying you. And that something is a crowd gathered around a wagon and a man. Dr. Clarkson's Ghost Begone wagon is most frustratingly, as you turn a corner, blocking your way as if set up here to waiting for you at this exact moment. Couple of things are happening here. Per the nature of the Ghost Begone threat, this is a danger simply that he is waylaying you this evening, latching onto you. You must take a condition by default, which is marked by the grifter. Now you already have 3, so this will force you to mark a mask, and also replace one of your current conditions that you have. So between your 2, which one is going to be replaced by marked by the grifter?
Cold blood, because the hanged man nose is too cool.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that one.
Awesome.
But I will also mark a mark a mask.
And I will say, we do still have the mask of the cat from the Daisy Man available because you were investigating, you were intending to go in the direction of the Daisy Man. That is available for you to use here if you don't want to use one of your own.
I don't mind using one of my own.
All
I
right,
will
cool.
leave just because I think those other 2 yahoos might need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly looking at the marshal here.
Who you calling a Yahoo? Yahoo?
Who do you think I'm calling a yahoo? Yeah, no, absolutely. I will mark my own mask of the past.
Absolutely. As you see this wagon standing there, Dr. Clarkson opening up the flaps of his tent, the bottles of Ghost Begun glowing from within. He looks over the crowd and his eyes lock with yours as if he was waiting for you. He smiles and points. Let's go back to the unseen.
The ghostly cattle rustler was murdered on this land some years ago after a shootout with a rival outlaw. As it materializes in the prior home, how does its appearance reflect its violent death? I think they were prepared for it to come through the window. They were prepared for it to come through the door, but instead it comes through the floor. Its form not only reflecting the death of the bullet through the heart, but the way that its body was sort of buried into this sort of crack, this ravine, sort of tossed and tumbled down, bones broken, and it can't stand properly and it must crawl.
Inside the Riverview Hotel, what is Marshal Harrington's approach for this plan, and how does Mother Ruth get involved here?
Well, plan is to sort of self-assertively check if the vagrant is in by sort of delivering a nonsense package because, well, this bounty hunter surely would expect me to either come through the door or through the window, but have her creating a bit of a distraction, a third option, if you will, could let us sneak in.
So are you just entering and walking up to the front desk?
Mother Ruth makes this a little bit easier, honestly speaking, because she can do it.
All right, Mother Ruth, what do you do?
Don't worry about nothing, Marshal. I've got you, and I'll take care of this. You'll know when to move and when to act.
Yeah. I hand over Mother Ruth the package that I had prepared earlier, so she won't be left totally astray. It is quite heavy.
Hmm.
Good Lord, what do you expect me to stand on top of this thing and preach?
Mother Ruth, you enter the lobby and walk across the carpet in front.
Immediately to the front desk.
Right to the
And
front desk, to the tall and clean-shaven young man in his slightly modified bellhop uniform. A little stands out from the others. Kind of eyes you as you're beelining straight towards him. And he is 2/3 of the way through saying, "Welcome to the Riverview," when you slam the package down.
I need your help, and you seem like you're the one that knows the most of how to help me. I think you might recognize me, Mother Ruth Calvo.
Yes, Mother Ruth. Yes, yes, yes. No, I'm familiar. You have the prayer tent at the end of that street. I'm so
His
sorry.
wrathful embrace. That's right. Yeah.
He looks over to some other people in the hotel and he says, "Sir, spurs off in the lobby, please." And he looks back at you. Yes. I'm sorry. What can I do for you, Mother Ruth?
There's one of my parishioners here in the acts of sinning right now. I saw him go up to his room right now, and I have to stop him. His wife would not forgive him. It would cause such consternation and trouble at his home. I understand you have discretion at the heart of it, but I need to save his eternal soul.
Mother Ruth, forgive me. Sorry, one of your parishioners is staying here. Do you have a name for him?
Yes, his name is Jedediah Wilson. Can you look through Jedediah Wilson in that book of yours right there? Did
I,
I found one?
ma'am, I keep a very good track of the books. I do not believe we have a Jedediah Wilson
I
staying
saw
here.
him walk in with my very own eyes. Are you calling me a liar? Would you call a servant of the Lord a liar for you right now?
Very good. Let's make this we're gonna have this be the day move because it's a brightly lit lobby and this is a customer service nightmare scenario, which always favors the instigator. What are you afraid of happening here?
I'm afraid that there's actually going to be a Jedediah Brown in the book.
That's really fun. Um, you can roll plus presence. Most beloved would not give you disadvantage here.
My dice are in my bag, so I have to pull out a dice roll. That is an 11 plus 2, 13.
Oh my goodness. Not only will you do it well, you'll get a clue. Go ahead and narrate the setup, like how this distracts him adequately.
You had to see him. He has the sideburns, and he's wearing a cowboy hat and with the vest and everything. And I think we see the front desk clerk go, "A man with sideburns and a cowboy hat." You described half the people in El Paso. Very good job. Oh, you're getting limp with me there. I'll tell you right now, I did not come all the way over and spend all the time in the loving light of the Lord to be talked to you like that.
Mm.
Just this back and forth and everything. Be like, you have to say Jedid and like spelling out. And he's like, I'm looking through right now. It's like, not that book, the other book that you have there. And he's like, this is the only book. And it's like, I saw you working with that other book back there. It's probably in that other book if it's not in this book. And I think we can just see the marshal just slowly moving, just walking, just striding past.
I like that. I'll on top of the clue, I'll just easily say that Marshall Harrington can just slip on through the lobby with this. That was an adequate distraction. Very good. Marshall, you stand outside the door to a room on the second floor.
It is a proper distraction that Mother Ruth has given me. Uh, Not quite what I had in mind, but it's good enough. And I think I just knock at the door, listening in, waiting, hearing if like there's anyone inside.
The knock, kum, 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 rings out. It's quiet. A slight shifting, a slight groan in the timbers of the building, but otherwise, no answer.
I'll try to turn the handle.
It's locked, of course.
It's locked, of course. Let's see how much of a distraction Mother Ruth can provide. I'm going to kick in the door.
It's the night move. What are you afraid of happening here, Marshall Harrington?
I'm afraid that the bounty hunter has been inside preparing, and he knows that no one is going to bother him right now. So if
Oh,
anyone is, it's probably trouble. So
it's much worse than that. This is a trap that is already laid, and you're about to get right snapped in the middle of it.
Mhm.
You are falling for his ploy. You can
Mhm.
roll plus vitality for kicking in the door. You are jumping at shadows. I kind of like the idea that throwing you off your like game. And in
Mhm.
the hotel corridor itself is like pretty like it's a little dimly lit, a little dark. Is that movement out of the corner of your eye? Is someone watching
Mhm.
you? And it's like it feels so liminal and cloying in this hallway, Marshall. Do you want to back down and go through with it?
I will go through with it.
Sure.
I don't have anything in my personal quarters that can help with kicking down doors. Could have done something else, but oh, that's actually really, really good. That's a 9.
Incredible. Very nice. All right. Your boot meets the door just below the lock. There is a splinter, a crack, as the door swings in on its hinges and slams against the inner wall, breaking a hole in the wallpaper into the small room beyond. Let's paint the scene. Actually, first of all, let me finish establishing a couple more details about the room. It doesn't look, the hotel room does not look outside. The hotel room looks into the inner lobby and the registration desk. So the curtains are kind of like open slightly, and you could like look down. You can see Mother Ruth down there. You can see the bellhop, and there are dusty saddlebags slung over a chair. Let's paint the scene. How do you know this room is being used by an animate corpse?
The smell. It's rancid in here.
The bed is completely untouched, like it's still made, except there's some grave dirt on the top sheets.
There are signs of a struggle, but as you look closer, you realize it's not a struggle and it's somebody trying to interact with corporeal objects and knocking them over and things. It just seems senseless. It doesn't seem like rage, though. It's more like bottles and things.
Here's your complication, and I'm proud of this one because it's subtle. It's one that Harrington won't know about, but you will. It's that as you step into the room, we see that as you walk in, your boot, the ankle, just very faintly catches a hair-thin gossamer strand of string that as you step over it, does not give any tug, just lightly pushes, and we see a slip of rolling paper from a cigarette that was tucked into a hinge falls out and drifts to the floor. And you're going to take the condition trespasser.
You know what? I'm gonna put on a mask for
Okay.
this one.
Okay. Which mask are you going to put on? You know what? I'll let you think about that. And then you think about your narration. And we jump over back to the streets. Graves. Dr. Clarkson looks at you and he's speaking to the crowd before him saying, "Come now, brothers and sisters of El Paso, true help has arrived. I am a professional with the cure to the trouble that ails you. Ah, you now, a member of the vaunted Vigilance Committee. Now, citizens, let's not boo too loudly. Ha ha ha. Amateurs do their best. Come here, my dear fellow, and learn something so you're finally of use to these good people. Now, you all see it here. You all saw it here. The committee is learning from Dr. Clarkson, too. Easy now, one at a time. There is plenty for everyone." And is people are, getting into the tent to buy Ghost Be Gone as he is just looking at you from across the way and smiling knowingly.
That's astounding. Graves meets his eyes and just sort of watches him for a while, seeing if he's gonna get actually beckoned up. And when he doesn't, he does just sort of stride up and wait for him to be done with these people. He's not in a hurry.
Yeah, let's paint the scene about Dr. Clarkson's wagon and shop that's with 2 P's and an E. What would have been enticing about this place when you were young?
A lot of really shiny, like, baubles. It looks like it's if you were a kid growing up out here in the West where there's not a lot of stuff, this would have been really cool. Little trinkets.
You heard it here first, folks. Graves, the inevitable, otherwise known as Death, is a non-binary corvid.
Yeah. Yes.
I think what's more interesting is how that this guy has made it like his home. He has like this little urchin kid following him around, like shouting for him, but he genuinely cares for the kid. It's quite obvious in the way like some of like the kid's stuff is like hung up very gently like onto the car, like there is like a teddy bear and whatnot.
Oh, that's cute.
Candy wrappers everywhere. Just little like small little like hard candies and different taffies and things. Just you can but the thing is that they're not just all over the place. They have been swept aside, but it seems like, oh, I can't bother with that.
Graves, as you're walking up to the tent, several members of the crowd do split off and turn their attention to you. Several people saying like, "Oh, Mr. Graves, Bartholomew," people being like, "We heard that you were shot. Was it true that you were killed by a ghost?" Blah blah blah. A lot of like something like that. And some people are just being like, "What do you think of Ghost Be Gone? Is it gonna work? So what's your opinion? Will it protect us?" People are very much interested in knowing your opinion on the matter. You're gathering a little counter crowd to ask you questions like, why is the Vigilance Committee not doing enough? People throwing like claims about like, what can we do to be safe? All of that kind of stuff. And Dr. Clarkson's arms are folded. He's like chuckling slightly, but turns to like do some transactions with the people at the tent and occasionally throws out quips of being like, indeed, I find it most peculiar that the Vigilance Committee finds themselves at this most important time the least vigilant. There are many things creeping in the shadows, my friend. Let it be illuminated with a bottle of Ghost Begone. What are you doing, Graves?
I think the first person that approaches gets kind of a befuddled look, like, why are you speaking to me? And once there is multiple people, this is so out of its depth. Like, this is not what death does. We don't interact with this many people at once. I've not had, and so it's just like, excuse me. I'd like to talk to what was your name? And just like points at the guy, like, pardon me, I have business to attend to, trying to really like not gather a crowd. And it's like clear that they've made death a little uneasy with all of this attention.
Yeah, let's make this the night move. What are you afraid of happening here? Just because I like the angle of you being uneasy. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I think I'm afraid of losing the opportunity to confront this guy and maybe making things worse with whatever dumb shit I say.
It's worse than that because one of these, so maybe one or more people in this crowd will at some point grab your forearm or touch a piece of your bare skin while they're trying to get your attention, and you know what'll happen then.
Oh, Christ. Oh,
You can either back
jeez.
down or go through with it. You can
Oh
either...
no, I'm going through with it.
Great.
Obviously.
It's gonna be plus composure with disadvantage because you're marked by the grifter.
Shit. All right, let's dropping things. All right. That is an 8.
An 8. I'll get back to you, but for now, let's jump back to the unseen. Whenever you're ready, Wes.
How does Avery Pryor, the head of the household, protect his family until he can retrieve the Ghost Be Gone? I think we see Avery say, back, y'all go back of the house, I've got this. I've had enough of this shit. I'm stepping right to you. And then starts reaching out and like trying to grab things and throwing different bottles and plates and like silverware at this ghost that just smash on the floor and clatter, and just making a mess. And takes out and starts reaching for one last thing, and grabs a tobacco pouch where you can see there's a pipe sticking out of it. And you can see there's all this mess of like liquid and things on the ground. And in a desperation, opens up the pouch and we see a rolling paper trickle and fall on the floor as he grabs a match and lights it and tosses it. And this liquid, probably spirits of some kind, catch on fire. And he goes, how you like that, you son bitch? Burn, just like you should burn in hell. I'll send you right back to hell, trying to find the Ghost Be Gone. But we see in the background, the audience sees the spirit just walking right through the flames.
Mother Ruth, you've been keeping this poor bellhop, his name is Martin, pretty busy, but he's nodding. He's running along and going through the books, and he's saying, he's like, yeah, I'm really sorry, Mother Calvo. Maybe, you know what? I'll double check it again. He pulls out the book. Hey, I mean, while you're here, have you heard about the Marshal?
About Marshal Harrington, that is.
Yeah, apparently there's a few skeletons in that closet. And kind of glances over at the stairs to go up and see, one of those skeletons has decided to make itself known, so to speak.
You wouldn't say. The Marshal does take prayers with me, so it would be good for me to know any kind of insight to help him on the path back to righteousness, if they all true, that being said.
You know, I've been listening to a few of the stories from our local skeleton in residence, nodding up at the window where we see a slight shift of movement of Harrington inside, but the bellhop doesn't notice. He says a lot of interesting things, really strange things. And your clue here that you're going to get, and this is a fun one, is you've heard I assume, was Mother Ruth in town 6 years ago during the last Wounded Night, or did you come here after?
Yes, she was.
Okay, got you. So you know all about like how the old marshal died and Harrington, was made the marshal afterwards. Well, Martin leans forward and tells you a heretofore unreported detail about the old marshal's death. Chaotic, was it? What is it?
I think the marshal, the current marshal, didn't report the death. It was Deputy Wainwright who reported the marshal dying previously. But Andrew Harrington was there when the old marshal died.
That's a detail you didn't know about, Mother Ruth. And as you're talking, you hear behind you the doors of the hotel swing open and the sound of heavy spurs on the carpet, boots thunk, thunk. And we see over your shoulder a figure backlit by the blood-red light of the moonlit streets outside. Bounty Hunter has returned. Andrew, you're up in the room. Since you bumped up your result, go ahead and narrate your outcome instead.
I think this time the thread is visible. Just he knows these types of things. He has implemented this type of thing before because he knows no one should touch your things when you're away. So he just gingerly steps over it. Sort of like, because you don't want to put it immediately at the door frame because it's very obviously like when you pass through and just like sort of people, it could just get accidentally triggered by like sort of a random passerby just banging on the door way too carefully. It's a few feet in because that's when you know someone is not just looking in but going in themselves. But he is in the room. He is looking around. Everything that he picks up, he puts down exactly where he found it. He is looking for, where did this corpse come from?
You may make the information move plus reason, and I still think jumping at shadows is giving you disadvantage here.
Okay. I think as he's still jumpy, he's still nervous. I think he's probably going to take a little bit out the Calamity's playbook effectively and pull out the flask with an engraving on it.
Take a
There's
swig
little,
for your courage,
yeah,
absolutely. There's a little what, sorry?
Uh, I think we see that the engraving on it is of a sun.
You may roll flat plus your reason.
Okay, that is a 7.
A 7. Yeah, okay. Let's see. What clue do I want to give you? And there are very good ones here. Hmm. I think we see you delicately stepping around the room, looking at the desk, small little shelf of the window, underneath the bed, and slightly hidden amongst the yellow-green carpeted pattern on the floor, you find a key slightly underneath the bed. You don't know this, Marshall, but this is for the sake of the meta clue, this is a key to the crematorium that you find. You find just a key discarded. As for your complication on a 7, what's a good complication here? Um, I could just give you a condition, but I'm also always thinking of interesting things. What is question? What does Harrington wear gloves or is it his bare hands?
I think for this he would have worn gloves,
Okay.
like because it's been established that he was a criminal.
Yeah, sure. Um, B, Wes, any ideas for possible complications to help my consideration?
I mean, is it too dramatic for the Revenant and Harrington to like see each other through the window?
Oh, that's good. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm doing that.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
doing
about to
that.
say
That's
that's
good.
yeah.
That's fucking badass. You pick up the key when you hear the doors open downstairs and you glance out the window and we see in more clarity from your perspective the bounty hunter armed to the teeth. You know, the sawed-off shotgun hip holster, revolver on the other hip, a rifle and manacles and just all sorts of weapons like knives and blades, the Stetson hat that they take off, revealing half of the decayed face in the moonlight. Very like Two-Face, kind of just toothy yellow spreading rictus on that side, a hollowed out eye socket that glows with a slight like inner like red light, like just steps inside, takes off the cap, scrapes the mud from its boots on a little edge nearby, and then takes 2 steps into the room, and its head just snaps and looks over at the window and sees you, locks eyes with you immediately, and doesn't seem alarmed by that. Just puts the hat on a little peg by the front door of the hotel, as if to say, "You wait right there. I'll get to you," and begins to walk towards the front desk. This makes it complicated because your mean of escape is he knows you're here, and there's really only maybe a couple of ways out of this hotel, but we'll get to that. Graves. With your complication like this, kind of push your way forward to Dr. Clarkson, and there's a slight shift in the temperature, barely noticeable to most people, but you catch it. and we focus on one of the bottles of Ghost Be Gone inside the tent, you in the background approaching Dr. Clarkson, would you see the faintest little spread of a small patch of frost that grows along one of the bottles before dissipating? We hear a little whispering whoosh as one of the locals kind of like stiffens, goosebumps running up their neck. They kind of like look left, they look right. They furrow their brow as if suddenly kind of frustrated or upset by something. Their gut turning in a sour direction. They shove the person next to them and says, "Hey, I saw it first," and then just grabs the bottle. There's a slow boiling rise of anger happening present, but that's not really an immediate problem for you. That's just something that's happening slowly. Some sort of fostering of anger is beginning to happen here. But you step up to Dr. Clarkson and he says, "Mr. Bartholomew Graves, was it? Dr. Jebediah Clarkson." He holds his hand forward, gloved. He has also gloved hands.
He'll get a handshake, gloved. Game recognized game.
Game recognized game. Firm handshake, Mr. Graves. Very firm for a man who recently was halfway in the grave, as I hear it. No pun intended, of course. Ha ha ha.
Hilarious. You really are quick-witted, sharp-tongued, mister.
Well, you gotta be if you're in the sales business, my friend. You have to really know what to say to the people to get them to buy things before they realize they don't really need it at all. Or rather, they do need it, but it's that their wallets or their wives, if you know my meaning, decide that they don't need it or they can't afford it for the time being.
That is what I wanted to ask you about. Your Ghost Be Gone. Where did you acquire this?
Now, a magician never reveals his secrets, Mr. Graves. After all, what would stop any people, not that I accuse you of such behavior, of course, but what would stop the local humdrums of El Paso from attempting to distill and create their own knockoff versions? And that would be a terrible thing indeed, not just for profits, but for the safety of the people. After all, they could miss out on crucial ingredients or important processes that would ensure their safety, and they might even invoke the ire of some of these nasty spirits. So you'll have to forgive me, but I do not reveal the secrets of the process. It is rooted very deeply, though, I assure you, in the mixture of my worldly travels. I learned traditional medicine from the Chinese and their healing remedies. You know, I was also trained by the Navajo in the mastery of spirits. I have combined these worldly experiences into a distilled, perfected bottle of Ghost Be Gone. And that is not something that you can just be replicate with a mere list of ingredients, my friend. That takes time and skill and practice. And of course, little business acumen on the side. Turn a profit.
And a little bit of deceit on the side.
What business is not founded on at least some small degree of deceit? It's always about convincing the people that they need what you're selling, supply and demand, after all.
All right, listen. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not here to buy anything. I'm here to tell you that all of this needs to stop.
You're here to tell me?
Yes.
All right. Pray tell then, Mr. Graves. I'm listening. Why should I stop?
Because disrupting the pattern of life and death is... morals don't really play into it, but it's dangerous for you.
See, that's where I'm going to pause now. Let me ask you this. Am I doing anything illegal right now?
What do laws have to do with any of this?
Because, you see, I am governed simply by the fact that I am operating well within the nature of my permitted ability to sell my wares and goods to the people of El Paso at any hour that they deem to be fit for business, and I continue along that path. I am beholden to the good law of this land, Mr. Graves, and when it comes to matters of should-haves, or perhaps I could be doing something else or not dabbling one way or the other, why, Mr. Graves, I'm protecting the people of El Paso, he says a little too loudly. And you would dare see that shut down? That's sorry. I mean, there's a little bit of a stir, like people being to turn their heads towards you. He does like a little like I'm wounded kind of stance, as if to say that you're attacking the little man.
Oh. I don't think you're protecting anyone, sir.
And you're doing a better job, are you?
Are you saying that I'm not?
I didn't say anything at all. But to the people of El Paso, inaction is just as bad as silence, I'm sure. Worry not, worry not. I'm sure Mr. Graves will not actually intend any real harm on you people. Nevertheless, it is our purpose to ensure that the Vigilance Committee understands just how to best keep you people safe. Perhaps, after some deliberating, you and your fellows can endorse the product to maybe salvage some of that reputation you seem to be squandering.
I'm not going to be endorsing anything,
Hmm.
my friend. But I just wanted to give you a fair warning. All right?
Warning delivered, signed and sealed.
And Graves does pat his arm, gloved, gives him one last look and turns around and leaves before this gets way too fucking hairy and people start actually touching him.
He watches you go. A long, long look, the smile, before he turns back to the crowd and says, please, please, one at a time. If there's not enough today, there will be enough tomorrow. Let's go back to the unseen.
The ghost begone does nothing to dissuade the ghost. Describe Avery Pryor's death at the hands of the cattle rustler. Everything is lit in these flames. All of the lights are out, and it is casting these ghostly shadows. And he grabs the ghost begone off of a shelf that he has managed to scramble to. Bottles fall haphazardly beside it, and he uncorks it and tosses it towards it like it's a salt. And it splatters on the ground, this greenish hue shimmering like an oil slick. And the ghost of the cattle rustler just keeps crawling through the flame, and it crawls over this green oil slick. And as it crawls, things start to fall off the shelves in the house. It starts shaking like an earthquake. And he grabs Avery Pryor's ankle and drags him down and sticks a ghostly hand through his chest and rips out his heart.
Mother Ruth, the heavy boots walk down the carpeted front lobby of the hotel. As the bounty hunter, you see his half-rotting visage, his many weapons hanging off of his form like the spines of some devil from the pit. Lumbers forward, stands a good head taller than you, and just says, "You're the priest, aren't you?"
Yeah.
Tell me, does your God believe in punishment on the sinners?
Indeed. And I see that my God has probably racked quite a few punishments upon you.
No God punished me, my fair lady. My state is entirely due to my devotion to the reward of justice. Do you believe in earthly justice? Or does punishment only come to those after they've died?
There's a saying from where I come, and I'll try to speak it to you in your brittle and brutish English. Earthly justice is just vengeance with a shinier name on it.
Sometimes vengeance is the most appropriate form of justice there is.
And he just nods at you, turns on his heels, and begins to stomp off towards the upstairs.
Would that be what you folk would allow? In a hotel such as this, in a town of El Paso such as this? Would you speak out and let this obvious villain, this raconteur, this murderer, speak to a woman like that? What say ye, all of ye, pointing to the people in the hotel, that you just stand by idly?
I know what you're lining up to do every time I see it. This is great. But first of all, before you do that, we do have a comment from Martin Garcia as you're proclaiming these as the heavy boots of the bounty hunter begin to ascend the stairs. He looks to you and he says, "Oh, Mother Calvo, a hotel is a restless kind of place. It's a middle space, if that makes sense. It's like purgatory here. If ever there were a place for them, it's at a hotel." And you're using fire and brimstone, which is such a great move for you. All right, you may roll with presence or sensitivity. Sounds like presence. And yeah, no disadvantage.
A 6.
Oh.
Oh my God, I know exactly what I'm going to do here. Finally, we've been waiting for this. You're ranting and you're raving and you're spouting about fire and brimstone, and we just hear a little explosion go off, and everything goes still. And we pan behind you to see that halfway up the stairs, the bounty hunter pulled the revolver out of the hip holster and is holding its smoking barrel and just twirls and tucks it back as we look and we see that your throat has a hole in it, blood beginning to stream down. As you look at it, spattering the carpet before you, the bounty hunter just turns and begins to walk up the steps, saying,
"I do hate it when they get so preachy."
And you die, but not really, because you have a move for this if you so wish to use it.
If I am faithless, if you would be struck dead and you are not pious, you can instead narrate a scene where you are miraculously saved and then take the condition pious. Pious can only be cleared with the move, but not forgotten, which is food. I think we see that, and we see Mother Ruth Calvo, just the blood leaking out of the hole, and like grabs a handkerchief and holds it up to her throat and starts like walking towards the bounty hunter, stumbling, and like with the other hand is reaching for something, almost like reaching for like the letter opener on the desk. But stumbles and falls. And I think we see Matthew Garcia run around and say, "Doctor, get that piece of shit doctor here. She's dying," and then take his finger and jam it into the hole. And we just see Mother Ruth go, and it's just ragged breathing as Matthew, like you can hear there's a rattling inside as the bullet is just rattling inside of her esophagus, burning her throat. And she's barely holding on as Matthew holds that finger, plugging that hole. And she's just staring up at the ceiling. And we see her, like the camera's face down, and there's a click, like a quick, like flash where she's no longer on a carpeted floor, but on a battlefield. And you can hear cannon fire and everything. And she has her hair up in a bonnet, keeping it out of her face, and has a bloodied apron and a black like gown underneath, and just staring up, wide-eyed, dirt and ash, soot smeared across her face and blood, and then it flashes back. And she smiles, and there's tears welling up as they're falling down the side of her head, mixing with the blood that is pouring out of her throat.
Andrew Harrington.
And Andrew Harrington, despite his best judgment, he knows what he needs to do. Because gunshots in El Paso are always bad news, and he always has to handle it. So he's running down the stairs towards the bounty hunter.
You don't even have to get down the stairs. You're halfway down the hallway when he turns the corner and stands there, comes to a stop, and just,
Ah, Andrew. Fancy meeting you here? Are you taking me up on my offer of making this easy?
Quite armed, are we? Are you
In
the
my
one?
line of work, you have to be.
Yes. Are you the one that fired a gun tonight?
Don't worry, Marshal. I didn't shoot to kill, only to silence. Or should I call you by your real name, Jamie Little?
Jamie Little is a pseudonym of my father. That's not me.
You won't fool me this time, Jamie Little. Do you persist in making this more difficult for all parties involved?
I aim to make it difficult because that is the just thing to do, because you can't go around in El Paso shooting random people. And I think Andrew Harrington is going to pull out the old Marshal's gun. I think as he's holding it, this Lamat revolver, his hand is shaking because he remembers the Marshal holding it, steadfast and determined, the ideal of justice. And Andrew's not sure if he can be like that. So he's just got this really sad look upon his face as he's looking down the barrel of the gun at the bounty hunter.
bounty hunter's hand held over the hip holster of the revolver.
Honorable men do this sort of thing in the street at high sun, as I understand it, befitting that a criminal of your nature would prefer to do it in the darkened halls of a hotel. Go on, then. If you think you're quicker than me, pull the trigger. Make me more justified than I already am.
You do not aim for justice, you aim for revenge. This is not out of hatred. This is me doing the right thing. And I'm going to fire my gun.
It's the night move. What are you afraid of happening here?
I am not quick enough, and I'm going to get shot instead.
Yeah. It's worse than that. There are some bystanders who are going to be very harmed by this shootout in a hotel. It's going to be sensitivity with jumping at shadows at disadvantage because
Yeah,
you're fighting something supernatural.
Yeah, and because of my particular thing, I cannot
You cannot mark the revolver. That's right.
Cannot. Oh boy. That's a 2.
Mm. Your finger twitches at the trigger, but before you even can blink, hand grabs the butt of his revolver and plugs 2 holes from the shot. Just a quick fan of the hammer. Pop, pop. It's just 2 simple, thunderous cracks that echo down the hallway. You don't even feel anything. You just realize that there is a punch-like sensation to your chest, and your head kind of snaps back as you stumble against a wall. You look at your marshal's badge over your heart. There's a bullet hole that's gone clean through the metal, and a little trail of blood is beginning to run out and stain your clothes. And then you feel some drops and something tickling on your forehead as you reach up, and you feel there is a hole right in the middle of your forehead, like a bloody third eye, just beginning to trail and pool up into your eyes as you glance behind yourself, and you see the old marshal dead. But in your delirious state, it's not the old marshal. It's a young cleaning woman for the hotel who was walking behind you. The bullet went through your heart, not your head. Fitting. There might not be anything in your chest after all, but the bullet went clean through your heart, through your back, and into her lovely little face, ruining her in a mess of blood as she's lying crumpled, pool growing out of the head. And the last thought that goes through your mind as the bounty hunter steps towards you to claim your carcass for a reward is how you couldn't save an innocent life.
I'm gonna put on a mask, please.
You absolutely may do so.
I am marking Cosmic Passage this time.
That's extremely fitting and fun. Can you read that out, please?
Increase your sensitivity by 1, max 3, and reduce your reason by 2.
Making you at a -2 reason, which is so fun. The marshal's losing it.
I think as sort of because I have an idea for a complication.
Oh, I'm all ears.
Andrew Harrington has been jumping at shadows for a while now, and he dislikes when people fire off their gun randomly. So when he pulls the trigger, it just goes click, click.
I was literally just thinking that as you pull your gun and he pulls his gun, he just pulls the hammer back and pulls the trigger and it just clicks, and his gun doesn't go off, and then yours click, 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 and it does go off, and we just see his hand come up and drop your bullets to the ground. And then he draws a knife and begins to advance towards you.
And Mother Ruth Calvo do something?
I'm all ears before we jump to graves.
Mother Ruth Calvo moves Matthew Garcia's finger out and puts her own finger into the throat hole, and you can just hear and grabs like a holy Bible that is on the stay on the front clerk, and with like her crucifix, which had broken off and everything, is holding it up and is pushing it towards this bounty hunter. And there's like her lips are moving, but the only thing coming out is and then there's just like little bits of like Lord and damnation and cast you out, like all these things, like essentially doing like an exorcism.
Yeah, and I guess this also counts as fire and brimstone. Because I'd say that this does something that violates your moral code. Yeah, I'm gonna say that it has to be plus sensitivity since you're doing the exorcism angle, and because your pious, I'll give you disadvantage on the concept of like we're gonna use that as the stand-in for the fact that you have a fucking bullet in your throat, right? Like, is that's I think the inherent like comedy in pious, but also referring to the fact that you cannot fucking speak well because you have a bullet wound is really funny. So with disadvantage, but with sensitivity as well.
I'm going to go ahead and mark letter from Marshal Harrington filled with confessions as to do the speaking for me. And it
Oh,
is
because you
not
know
being
he's innocent for these
I
crimes.
know that he's innocent for these crimes.
You
I
know
know
what
his
crimes he
crimes.
did. You know what his actual crimes were.
And it's not being proclaimed to the people around me, but it is being proclaimed by myself to this
But
bounty hunter,
it's your
to the God
belief.
above.
Yeah, to God
Yeah.
above. You know the
Yeah.
truth. That's fascinating. Yeah, okay, roll flat plus sensitivity.
I want to give a shout out to online-dice.com. Can I get we up, we back in this, boys, as that is an 8 plus 1, a 9.
A 9. They stand down but are resentful. That's very good. I think that we just see. Actually, I'll let you narrate how this how the exorcism causes the bounty hunter to stand down.
I see there's like he's got a knife and he kind of falters and turns and he's like, "Oh, you. I know I should have." And then we see a little bit more twitching. I am going to mark a mask as well, to bump it up to a 10.
Oh, and they disperse.
And I think there's just out of his mouth, a shriek, a scream of multiple different screams that do not sound like his. And there's just a blast back of energy on the marshal that like whips the marshal's duster back and then like the hat off and everything. And there's just this little ghostly little dust Phillips that are like falling down. Clearly not like a done for kind of thing, but it's like almost like you see Mother Ruth Calvo look shocked as well. That this worked in that kind of way. As I'm going to mark the cosmic passage as well, to increase my sensitivity by 1. Uh,
This will have unforeseen consequences, as
mhm.
this actions will certainly cause the people of El Paso to question things even more for Marshal Harrington. But all the same, you do so. Graves, after extricating yourself from Dr. Clarkson's wagon, you make your way to your intended destination, far delayed after the fact. Let me see something real quick.
Can I do something? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, can I change my mind?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Because there's a bunch of people at his wagon. Can I just get out and go around back and see what I can see about his little ghost friend? See if I can spy whatever the
Yeah.
fuck he's got going on?
Yeah.
Because now I care more about this because this dude targeted me and I'm not really into that.
Absolutely. You can give me the information move plus composure disadvantage because you're marked by the grifter.
Of course. Very good. Let's see. That is still a 7.
7.
Yes.
You spot something before leaving the scene. I'm going to give you an incomplete clue. So like it
Ooh.
won't be usable until you like follow up with it and get like more of the
Okay.
information. There's something in the wagon that you don't get a good read on. So you'll actually have to like go to his wagon either during the daytime or during
Oh
another night
God.
and like to find this thing to get it as an actual functional
Jesus.
clue. But you spot, let me see if I can at least give you something vague just to remind myself. Um Yeah, all I'm going to say is you just spot something of interest, but you really don't really, in his wagon, you will. Yeah. So you'll need to like follow up on that clue later to actually get it, but you do spot something. It'll just be you'll have to follow up on that in order to get it. Yeah. So
I love that.
yeah, that's fun. All right, very good. And with that, I think that'll bring our night phase to a close. Let's go into the dawn, and then we'll take a break. No threats were resolved, so we don't have any rewards. Let's go through and do dawn questions here. Did we answer a question last session?
I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so.
No.
Okay. All right. Mother Ruth, did you experience an echo in the night?
Yes, the bottles and everything being shattered around the hotel room, also
Awesome.
mimicking the prior residence.
Awesome. Did you let yourself be driven by guilt?
I would say,
There's also factors last session as well.
Oh, that's
well, you
right.
weren't here for last session. That's
I
right.
wasn't
Yeah.
here last session. Yeah. I guess if only I think probably what because it doesn't say my guilt. It says driven by guilt.
True.
What about driven by Harrington's guilt?
I like that. That's cool. That was a really cool scene. I'll give it to you. And did you decide not to give a damn, turning your back on righteousness? You did quite the opposite.
I did the opposite.
Graves, did you experience Echo in the night?
I tried to work in some stuff with the Ghost Begun, but I'm not sure it counted.
What were you trying?
Honestly, I think it overlapped with Mother Ruth's bottles being shattered on the ground, so I don't think it counts for me. I'm gonna
okay
say that. I don't think that's fair.
Did you have a misunderstanding with another character because they perceived you as the host? I mean, yeah, the entire town, like, it was just thinking you're Bartholomew.
Yeah.
Did you take time to puzzle over the human condition?
I don't think killing a guy counts as puzzling over the human condition. So no.
So that's one. MARSHAL, did you experience Echo in the night?
Yes, because I said that the bounty hunter was expecting me to go through his door or through his window. It probably had a trap there, so.
Yeah. Did you stare mournfully at someone who reminds you of the old MARSHAL?
Debatable whether or not you count me staring mournfully at my gun. Probably not.
I mean, it's
the old
MARSHAL's gun. I mean, it's like, and yeah, and I'll give that to you because then I also provided you with a little scene of in the other alternate timeline of a hallucination of the old MARSHAL. So I'll give it to you. So, and then did you live up to the ideal of doing justice?
I would say yes.
I really liked your speech about how it's like about justice and all that. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's really good. So that's 3.
One away.
One away. All right. Let's take 10 and then see if we want to hear any of these. I believe Graves owes us a mask. Is it just Graves who owes us a regular mask, or is it also Harrington?
Also Harrington.
All right. Yeah, if you guys want to do those during the dawn phase, let's take 10. And when we come back, we will pick up with what happens next. All right, we're back. Before we jump into the day phase, do either of our players who owe masks wish to narrate them? Go for it.
Also, quick question. Are we also doing the mask of the other masks that we did, like the lonely one?
Didn't we already do that one?
Did we all do that one?
No, it was never marked. So no, it was. No, we did.
Okay, yeah, I was like,
each hunter narrates a flashback of time they felt truly alone. Oh God, was that lingering? Did we forget to do that one?
I didn't do that one.
I'm pretty sure I did it.
Yes, you did it. Andrew Harrington did it. I remember. I'm not sure the rest of us did.
Okay, so that's on the table still, in case it wasn't done. So then I'll leave it out there.
Okay, fabulous.
We'll stand corrected otherwise. But
yeah, because Ruth Calvo did it too.
Yeah, you did.
Did you?
Okay.
Yeah, because it was a positive one. I narrated a scene
where
Ruth was by herself in the home and it was quiet and she could have some whiskey and like relax.
Yes. Okay. Well, good news. I'll weave mine into the same one because they work together. Narrate a flashback to when you finished the work of your sibling Pestilence by helping the last member of a once proud civilization die alone. It's quiet here now. Our jobs are almost done, Pestilence and me. Bodies lie still in mass graves, hastily dug by ever-dwindling hands. Hundreds, thousands to be reclaimed by the earth. There's only one left. A straggler. But not for long. Tears stain her cheeks. She knows. I kneel down beside her and hold her hand. History will not remember her name. There is no one left here to remember it. But she will not truly die alone. None of you do. I am there. I am always there. And I think we pan from that to Bartholomew Graves, the first scene we saw in El Paso, out in the desert, bleeding, alone. But he's not Bartholomew Graves anymore. He's something else. Something that, for the first time in its entire existence, feels the weight of loneliness out in that cold, dark desert.
Andrew Harrington. He always felt like he was the cleverest person in the room. But honestly, it's just a bit of luck, a little bit of privilege that most people don't get access to. But he has family. It's always important when you end up in the big cities to ask around about people's fathers and whatnots. Because some fathers are a little bit prolific, as it were. Most of the time, it turns out that you don't really care for much of your siblings, especially since you weren't raised with them. But Andrew Harrington did once find an interesting sibling. His name was a little bit too complicated for Harrington to pronounce, but let's just call him Timothy, because that's easier to keep a secret with that. Timothy couldn't really hide amongst the common folk like Harrington could. But he always had a soft spot for Timothy. And people eventually knew it. People began to hunt Timothy down. People needed to take Harrington down a peg. Timothy was far too young. He was just a boy of himself. He shouldn't have died. He shouldn't have been shot in the street. He shouldn't have tried to take his body. It wasn't meant to go to an institution. It wasn't meant to be dissected as a form of science and experimentation. I don't care if you never seen the Fishmen of the Thames before. You shouldn't have done that. I suppose that's the sort of lie that Harrington told Mother Calvo and the rest of El Paso, that he's not a murderer. That he's just a man. That most of his crimes were thievery, but he did kill a lot of people before. trying to get Timothy's body back. And I think the shame was that he could never bury it back in London. He had to take him over to the States. Couldn't go back home again.
Wonderful. Thank you both. It's the day phase, everyone. Let's hear what y'all would like to do. Let's start with whoever wants to pipe up, please, by all means, throw out there what you're interested in doing. Got a lot of conditions on the table for a few of you.
I mean, I think most of us need a vulnerable move, but I'm not sure who's like intact as like a whole person. Like, are you all good? What what did we wake up to? Like, you got shot in the throat, Mother Ruth. I don't know what's going on with the marshal.
I like the idea of like a couple of days have definitely passed since that standoff at the Riverview, so it kind of lends itself to being this slight recovery, slight, you know. So I think a couple days have passed.
Yeah, I think you've seen Mother Ruth expecting to see her like laid up in bed and everything. Next day was leading revival, had bandages around her throat, and was not loud, but was speaking quietly and succinctly. And it was one of those preachers that are not very wordy, but are very direct and to the point. And a lot of gesticulating instead. It has been there every day, has not left the church until the wee hours of the night, and then wakes up in the morning that the family that she's staying with doesn't even see her most of the time. Like they are just wondering, like the Wilson family like will wake up and she's already gone. Sometimes she will sleep at the church because she's up speaking to like people giving confession and everything.
So with that in mind, who wants to do what? Let's start with Graves.
I think I need a vulnerable move with someone.
I know with Mother Calvo in particular, she cannot clear both of her
This
conditions.
is very true. This is very true.
No,
neither of her conditions can be cleared. Yep. However, you're free to clear conditions with the marshal if you so choose. All right, so we'll get a scene between Andrew and Graves. What is Mother Ruth doing today?
There's a con man and a swindler still in our town, and I believe that swift religious extremism is the only way to deal with that.
Swift religious extremism. Okay, gotcha. Whose vice are we indulging for this vulnerable scene?
I think mine, just purely because I think with what's going on, that Graves may want to ask me a question about stuff.
Fair. Yes.
Possibly.
Mean, I won't indulge in it with you.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll be there.
I'll be present though.
Then Andrew, it's your vice. I'll let you set the scene, and then you two can role play.
I think Andrew has called Graves specifically to his home because like he's been worried that Mother Calvo will show up at the jail again. And he really doesn't need that. I think Graves, like some stuff that you would notice about it is that with like the mirror that is broken, the picture that has been burned and torn, but outside of that, there is just a bunch of stuff that around the house that clearly does not belong to Harrington.
I think as soon as just they shake their head like, what is this? This is like humans are ridiculous, but this is kind of takes the cake sometimes. It just he forgets that this is a thing. But particularly, I think you see Graves pick up like a pocketbook that is so clearly not yours. It is someone else's. Like it has someone else's signature in it or something, or their name in it. And they just pick it up, look at it, look at you, put it down. And then you called me here for something, Marshall.
It's been real nervous like Graves. You, despite everything, I think you're a little bit more the reasonable uh, member of the committee.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, do you have something to ask me that you need someone reasonable for?
Yeah. So just to sit with me, just have a conversation. Just I I can't confess to Mother Calvo because I don't know what she would think, but I need confession.
Marshall, I'm not one for confessions, but I am one for listening. Though I do think Mother Calvo's whole thing is not judging, or well, not openly judging. What are you afraid of?
She speaks of fire and brimstone for the perhaps the sinners, for the folk, for demons that run upon the land, and I'm just you never quite know about things. I just the Wounded Knight has been training me, bringing out the worst to me, things I don't particularly care about myself.
Well, I don't think it's the worst. I think every aspect of you is just human. Am I incorrect, Marshal Harrington?
Is that going to be your background question?
Oh yeah, baby. If that can be my background question.
Well, I suppose a part of me must be human, from what my mother was able to tell me, but not entirely true.
Oh?
Uh, my father was an interesting man. Well, is an interesting man. He's probably still out in the land doing whatever schemes that he may ploy.
Okay. I don't see what removes him from humanity. That sounds about right.
Ah, yes, but for thousands of years, I doubt it.
This is a joke, isn't it? You're joking.
No, he he's no, he's not human at all. He is a cruel man. He had he has his own little cults that he likes to form. He considers himself a god amongst men. He's not a god, if that's what you're asking. That's a little bit too preposterous. I don't think anything that divine would walk amongst us, and he would not be considered among the divine because he's a wretched, horrendous being. Would happily crush the skulls of anyone who would even so matter as touch him without his permission.
Are you saying that this man, and he does indeed sound like a man, has escaped the cycle of life and death and rebirth. Are you saying he's some kind of immortal?
Yes, I don't know exactly what motivates that, but it has given me some sort of benefit just being his son.
And do you also think yourself not mortal?
I wouldn't go that far. I'm pretty sure I would die. I've aged, as far as I can tell, but what really sometimes, you know how I take things and
Oh,
whatnot.
I know.
People aren't bothered by that.
Are you
Yeah,
sure?
I mean, they get a little finicky, but they don't hold on to that very long.
Hmm.
Why, like I was a known thief before coming to El Paso, and even in El Paso, in the years up to last wounded nights, I was known for that. And yet they made me the marshal. Do you consider that a little bit strange?
Stranger has happened, but it is a little strange. Not the strangest thing you've told me, though. I think I want to know where this father of yours is next time you talk to him.
Gladly.
It's a wonderful place to end the scene. Which conditions are we clearing here, gang?
Marked by the grifter, if
Sure.
possible.
Yeah, I can see that's fun.
I'm getting rid of marked by Mother Ruth as she's off doing other things.
Yeah, that works. Speaking of those other things, Mother Ruth. You were doing something about the ghost begun?
Where's that blasted grifter?
Yes,
I'm looking for
indeed.
the card.
Absolutely. Your search can take you to the lumber warehouse at the northern edge of El Paso, where you know that he stores his wagon or where you hear it. And as you're walking down the street, you see that an enterprising girl has set up a stand on Durango Street, selling a new and improved Ghost Begone, which appears to be little more than spinach water. Seems that the craze takes hold in many ways, but either way, you know that he stores his wagon during the day at this warehouse.
I'm going to walk right up to the warehouse door. Just pound. Pound, pound,
You
pound.
brush right past Harry Etheridge, the warehouse watchman, as you're walking up. He goes, "Good evening, mother." What the? Bam, bam. He walks over and takes you by the shoulders and goes, "Mother Calvo, hold on, wait, hold on." He pulls you
Take your hands
aside.
off me, Harry.
I apologize, Mother Ruth. I'm. If there's no one inside. It's empty. I'm the watchman. If you have some sort of questions, you can talk to me.
Good. You can help me inside so we can drive this con man out of our streets once for all.
Now, hold on a minute. There ain't no committee business here. I appreciate what you're doing, but I can't just let you wander wherever you please, all right? Especially if you intend to rifle around in another person's rightfully paid for secure belongings.
Harry. Etheridge, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I remember. You used to come to church. Don't so much anymore.
I still do when I'm able to have the time off of whatever work I've been hired on. Times is tough. You know how it is. Told you as much in confession before.
Yet it's been a while since you've been back. Is it because you've been taking blood money from this con artist?
Now, hold on. There's no blood money. I don't work for Dr. Clarkson. I work for the warehouse.
Ecclesiastes 5:10, Harry. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. Meaningless like this warehouse job that you have. You know what Jesus said about those that worked in this kind of way, overlooking evil things right under their nose. You should shirk yourself of all earthly possessions and wander out into the desert. Maybe then you could see the true face of the Lord and come back to town and understand who you are.
Okay, cool. So is this another fire and brimstone, or is this?
No,
Is this
this is
okay,
just
gotcha.
pious Mother Ruth
Gotcha.
Calvo.
Just love it, love it. Gotcha. Make sure. Cool. Let's do this as the day move. What are you afraid of happening here?
That I'm gonna get tossed out, turned away.
Yeah, that's fair. You can do this plus presence. Um, no disadvantage from being pious, honestly. Just kind of feel like it lends itself to the intensity of the scene, honestly.
That's a 10.
That's a 10. Narrate what happens.
I think Mother Ruth Calvo holds that look after like that last statement, and the camera cuts to Harry, cuts back to Mother Ruth, cuts to Harry, and Harry goes, "I reckon it's about time for my smoke break," and just hangs his head in shame and pulls out his tobacco pouch and just walks around the corner.
Hell
Mother
yeah.
Ruth Calvo looks very proud with herself and just opens the door.
Absolutely. This warehouse is used to store lumber and materials for the planned train yard north of town. He left behind the means of unlocking the secure doors. There are supplies stacked in large crates covered by old tarpaulins. Dr. Clarkson's wagon is parked in the back. Let's paint the scene. How has this place been affected by Dr. Clarkson's trapped ghost?
There's ice crystals where there reasonably wouldn't be in El Paso.
There's writing on the wall, Lorna, over and over again, all over the walls and everything. Just the word or name Lorna.
I think for the warehouse, for other goods and services, because it's not just Dr. Clarkson in here. Like the warehouse does store things. A lot of the boxes have been repeatedly been knocked over or whatnot.
Mother Ruth, what do you do?
Oh, immediately start looking through boxes. If I can, if they're nailed down, try to find a pry bar.
Make the information move. Um, plus reason, however, you are pious. I think that this counts as a sinful act to go rifling through other belongings. You have to take the roll at disadvantage.
I mean, I'm doing things through the will of the Lord.
Oh, okay. If you want to argue
No,
it,
no, 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 no. I'll take the disadvantage because it's
okay.
fair. It's fair. It is breaking and entering.
It is breaking. It is entering and then breaking.
It will be a sin if I take anything.
Mm-hmm. And sin's a terrible thing.
You said with reason?
Yeah.
It's a 6.
It's a 6. You're rifling through various things. And you feel a shift, a change, a slight creeping frustration that begins to clot in your throat like rising bile that you realize is externally kindled. There's a quiet in this warehouse space, light coming in through dusty shafts in the windows. The ghost is manifesting here, but subtly, stoking a feeling of intense and building rage. The night move. What are you afraid of happening if you should lose control of yourself?
That I'll regress on my sinful ways.
This will be plus sensitivity, disadvantage for being most beloved. It's targeting you because it knows it can foster that rage in your heart. I'm going hard on y'all today. I love it.
That is a 4 plus a 1 plus 2. That is a 7.
Very
That plus
good.
2 sensitivity came through clutch.
Very good. How do you feel, Mother Calvo?
I think there's an immense amount of pressure on Mother Ruth. Like in a tank in the bottom of the ocean kind of pressure, feeling just pressed in at all sides, constricted even.
Indeed. I'm going to give you the condition constricted. Only because if I said you take under pressure, I would want to scat like fucking Freddie Mercury immediately. Yep. Oh, very good. Then I'll let you just kind of like narrate how you continue operating despite that, unless you want to mark a mask, of course.
Since I am going to go ahead and mark a mask, the mask of the cat, since I'm doing a bit of a break of entering myself.
Okay, well, you're not investigating the Daisy Man, I will say. You're doing the
So it
Ghostly
has
Gone.
to be in particular with the Daisy Man.
Yeah, it's attached. It is attached to the Daisy Man threat. The mask does have to be while you're pursuing it. But I'm willing to hear an argument for how there is enough overlap to justify it because it's a small town. Because I kind of like the idea. No, fuck the rules. I'm gonna let you do it. Because I think it's cool because you're doing break and enter. It's a thematic connection. It's a thematic one. I like
One
it.
might say an echo.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck the rules. Let's do it. So each hunter narrates a time when they secretly entered a building at night for a purpose they hoped would never be revealed. That is now on the table for all of you. So in that case, you're not going to take the condition. Instead, just narrate how Mother Ruth deals with this sensation.
I think there's this feeling of like we feel the shadows kind of moving in. There's almost like ice around the frame of the camera as Mother Calvo is looking through. And she's clasping her hands together, but then removing them and then taking and grabbing a pry bar. And right before she pries open, she stops. And we see this like presence lingering over her. And we don't see what it looks like, but we can feel that there's someone there staring down at her. And she just takes a deep breath. And it's like there's this gathering heartbeat, her heartbeat. That's like she can feel it, and then I can do all things through the Lord that strengthens me. And stops and goes, "That'll be enough of that now." And then there's a beat, and then it recedes. A little bit of matronly, kind of stern direction, as I have to give some myself.
Love it. Let's jump over to Graves after your scene walking through El Paso. Agatha Edwards, owner of the El Paso Times, comes sidling up next to you as you're walking down the street and saying, "Mr. Graves, so delightful to see you on this fine afternoon."
Hello again. You said her name was Agatha, right?
Yes.
Because I was like, Graves would remember. My brain is soup. Hello again.
Any comments you'd like to issue the El Paso Times and its readers about this ghost begone business. I understand that a few nights ago there was quite a display where some folks are saying you were rather made an ass of yourself, but others are saying that you're willing to stand up directly to or this Dr. Clarkson's whole business. I would love to hear from you personally, after all. Anything you'd like to tell the readers?
Well, Agatha, I would love to hear what you know about him too, so maybe we could have a conversation again.
Oh, Mr. Graves, you know that a good reporter should not ever reveal a source, especially one told in confidence.
Goodness, no. But information about what he's doing, I don't think that's terribly private, is it?
A tete-a-tete quid pro quo. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Graves, I am certainly finding myself frequently in the position of coming to you for information, but then you exacting a toll from me. I'm almost wounded if I wasn't so professional.
Listen, I just think this can be a equally beneficial relationship. I don't see what benefit I get from giving you information if I don't get any. Frankly, I think you are a boon to the Vigilance Committee.
Thank you most kindly. And on that note, I do actually want to ask you a question. How about this? I'll tell you what I know if we start off on a note with you. You did just finish speaking with Marshal Andrew Harrington, did you not?
Oh, yes, I did.
You know, there was that matter at the Riverview Hotel a couple nights ago, and all this whisper and rumor mongering spreading around about the marshal being some sort of wanted criminal by the name of Jamie Little, and the undead bounty hunter that is quite literally haunting his footsteps, trying to exact some sort of vengeance. Would love for you to shed some illumination about what your personal opinion on the matter is, and indeed what you and the marshal have been speaking about.
Well, we've been speaking about Vigilance Committee matters, and, you know, the Marshal and I are old friends. But I don't believe that he's wanted in good faith. I think this is a case of mistaken identity. Surely, I mean, do you really believe the Marshal of El Paso is a criminal? It's ridiculous.
Doesn't matter what I believe. Doesn't matter what the people believe, and I suppose what you believe. Which you would have definitely just spoken around, Mr. Graves. Do you believe he's a criminal?
I don't believe that the bounty hunter is looking for the right person.
Go ahead and make the information move plus presence for anything you might get from this conversation, too. Every time Agatha and the Inevitable are on screen, I'm like, are they gonna fuck?
Honestly, I'm like, maybe. Listen. I don't want to kill her, though, so. Oh, that's a 5.
Incredible. That's a 5. How do I want to react to this? This is actually very fun. Hold on.
What sorts of rumors that Agatha will spread about Graves and Harrington, I wonder.
Oh, yeah. No, that's absolutely the case, right? Is like, you're going to take the condition, read all about it.
Oh, Christ.
Because the next issue of the paper, there's going to be like rumors and salacious, that like is, like possibly implicating that Graves is some sort of confidant and that there's like secret meetings happening. And Agatha is by no means this is by no means personal, but she's just doing her job as a journalist and reporting it like the sources see it. So I think that is certainly, a great complication there. It's just being like, it is stoking the rumors.
Oh, Death is getting tired of this humanity shit.
Very good. What was Marshal Harrington going to be doing after the scene with Graves?
Well, I besides having Graves as a confidant, effectively, I think I shall go to Del Sol.
Del Sol, very good. You go to your marshal's office. Deputy Wainwright's kind of seeing himself out the door and goes, "Oh, morning, Marshal." Tips his head. I left a pot of coffee on if you want to get yourself some. Now got to go out to the ranches. Supposedly someone's setting cow pies on fire, and well, Deputy's job is never done.
Mhm.
And sees
Thank you,
himself
Deputy.
out. And sure enough, inside the jail cell, as always, there is Del Sol. He is different in more ways than one. You've marked a few more masks of the past since we last saw Del Sol. How has his appearance changed to reflect what was narrated in those memories? Last time he had an apple. What's going on this time?
I think if you allow me to have this wider interpretation,
Love it.
I think the more concerning thing is less about what Del Sol has changed, but what Harrington has changed. I think Graves was just too polite to not mention it, but I think Harrington's face has sort of adjusted to be more refrain looking like Jamie Little, just more looking a little bit beady-eyed and suspicious. And I think if you were to take off Harrington's shirt, you would see a brand new sun tattoo on his back. Who is still sold to Harrington?
Who indeed? Del Sol has also changed somewhat too. It's hard to focus on, but when you blink or look away for a moment, his tattoos have shifted or altered. And he stands there. He very not sitting on the bed this time, but kind of very Hannibal Lecter-y this time, where he was already just standing in the cell, eyes right at where you enter, and he just goes, "Good morning, Marshal Harrington. I was wondering if you'd grace my presence today."
Yes, still so. Oh, one of these days we should meet outside of here. But
Would
probably
if I
that
could, Marshal. Would if I could. Things are getting real disparate out there. It's harder to sometimes fight the current. There's a lot of weird stuff out in the world that would sweep a lesser man away. But I'm always here, as I've mentioned before. Sometimes after the worst of an indulgence, you just have to sleep it off, which I am quite capable of doing. Frequent visitor of this domicile of yours. I appreciate you doing your part to keep the town safe, and especially this old friendly face safe from his own vices.
Yes. And I can trust you, Del Sol, to be a good, honest citizen, despite your vices.
Indeed, Marshal Harrington. There's a lot of honesty to be found, especially if you go looking for it. Sometimes the truth lies hidden, maybe under a rock, maybe behind a door, the key to which, in of itself, lies in the past. The distance between spaces reminds me of old songs I once heard in my youth. The tunes, the specifics of which are long forgotten, but the memory of those tunes lingers like the touch of an old lover, if you know what I mean.
I think I do.
How can I help you, Marshal? What vexes you this fine morning?
Well, there's been some sort of amount of concern about someone that is onto me. And, well, I figured that I would offer a little bit of a show of a reveal of my hand, as it were. There is a character who looks surprisingly like me, and I've decided to take on some aspects to help folks realize some things. Yours in particular today. Have you ever seen this face before of Jamie Little?
I've seen many faces, Marshal. Many different faces, sometimes the same, but different. Something about ripples and eddies tickles the back of my mind. He leans real close towards the bars and studies you in the dim light of the morning. Your face is familiar. And by that extension, so is his. And many like it. Rippled across many different places. In the past, in the future too. All at once, I suppose. Go ahead and roll with sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. She is just losing their shit. Thank God I improved my sensitivity because that's a 7.
The 7. You gain 1 clue.
1 clue. That's okay.
That's okay. I'll give it to you for the bounty hunter. Let's see. Oh God, these are so fucking good. Yeah. You know, I've traveled a lot, Marshal. Before coming to Fair El Paso, I've been around the block, as it were. I've seen lots of things, spoken with lots of people, as I'm sure you have as well. Some folks often point you in weird directions, taking you down paths you never would have expected to walk before. You know what that's like. I remember I was a younger man, but still quite old. Name Jamie Little rings a bell. I remember a tombstone I once saw. It bore the name Jamie Little, but the dates were most peculiar. This was 50 years hence, Marshal, that they died. On the same year they were born, in infancy. That's the name I heard, Jamie Little. It's funny, though. I didn't see that little boy's face. I've just seen his grave. But something about that grave reminded me that there are places where one can view the dead, slightly shifted from our normal perception. I could tell you right then and there, if I placed my hand deep within that dirt, I would have seen that man as he would have become, and his face would have been yours. But such truths hidden behind the lid of a casket. It's hard, Marshal Harrington. It's real difficult. Sometimes you find yourself wandering because you want to. Other times you wander because you got no choice. But the third and most terrible truth is you wander because you are bound to a path that you are unable to break free from. I guess in some ways it's like the orbit of the planets in this fair system of ours, is it not? We orbit, we rotate, we move, we wander, but our paths are not our own. Our paths were set long before us. My path was set in a long, distant epoch, and so was yours, Marshal. You best wander carefully. The demiurge works in mysterious ways.
But maybe there will be an interference off stage.
Perhaps there will be, but tread carefully, Marshal Harrington. There's more than one anima mundi in El Paso. He starts to whistle and lies back down on his cot. And I think with that, we'll close the session. Unless anyone wishes to give their masks now, we'll go to Stars and Wishes. All right. Stars and Wishes, gang.
Holy fuck. I'm just gonna start because everyone was so fabulous. Holy shit. You all know I like to gush. Alex, the bounty hunters, Holsties was so good. I loved the face, the voice, the everything. The lines were killer, literally, metaphorically. It was astounding. Like, I love your voice acting, and I'm always so excited to see what you do with these new antagonists. Like, oh, delicious. Also, the last scene with Del Sol was bananas. I don't know what's going on anymore at all. I didn't before, now I super don't. And I love it. It's fabulous, delightful, absolutely just delicious. And I also love the obstacles that you throw at us when we have misses. It's so fun. Like, I love a miss. I love a 2. I love a 5. Like, it's so narratively fun, and you really ramp up the stakes, and it was really great this time. Shooting Mother Ruth in the throat was really fucking crazy. And on that, wowzer bowsers, what a move, Mother Ruth. That's a crazy move you got there. Oh my goodness. And it's, you did it, like, I hit my mic. I was so excited. It was so cool to see you do that. I hadn't read that part of your move because I wanted to be surprised in fiction, and oh ho ho, did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. Doing fire and brimstone with a bullet in your throat with the letters from Marshal Harrington, that was so cool. That was delicious. Oh my gosh, just stars all around. And just how quickly you get Bible verses out, just like on it. Jeez, absolutely. Every time, all the time. I love it. Just 10 out of 10, no notes. Marshal Andrew Harrington, what are you? I'm so excited to figure that out because once again, I don't read other people's playbooks if I can help it, except for like when I'm choosing them at the very beginning because I want to be surprised in fiction. So I have no idea what's going on with Marshall, no idea what's chaotic and what's in the playbook. I didn't expect any of this 1,000-year-old father shapeshifter fish person. If I heard that correctly in the flashback, a fish person from the Thames.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's so cool, extremely cool. Also, I really loved your speech and your entire scene with the Revenant Bounty Hunter. That was a super cool way to handle that. The speeches were fabulous. It was really sick. It was absolutely rad, and I'm loving it. Just, I could gush for the entire time we have allotted for Stars and Wishes, but I will let someone else go.
Yeah, you fuckers. Chaotic. I love being able to work with Harrington, which means I get to work with you, because you always make the most interesting choice, because there's something happening in that little fucked up brain of yours. You may not understand nostalgia, but you understand the atmosphere and the themes that we're playing with here. I also appreciate how you don't like meta lock yourself into things. You are like you're not out here being like, okay, I can perfectly time when I leave this room and everything like that with the breaking and entering and the bounty hunter. You pick the most interesting option, and you have like a really good like risk assessment and risk mitigation of understanding you're like, okay, I can go ahead and mark this mask for this role, but I'm also just going to take it's really cool to see you understand the system really well and everything. And it makes sense because you're you. B Graves needs to figure out this whole being able to touch people thing because you got to stop being so hot with all the NPCs. Graves over here just slanging around flirtations like that, going to end up in the bed and everything, and it's going to be a time, and so it's going to be a bad time for all. So you got to figure that out. But no, your interactions with fucking Dr. Clarkson were really good, and it's really good seeing a player show restraint when you know you could just touch this motherfucker's face real quick and just be like, all right, that's this is how I solve the threat. Which it does not solve the threat. It makes things worse, but um it's cool like to see that because like a lesser player would be like, this motherfucker with his fucking like this fucking dandy with his fucking foppish voice and his fucking $10 words when a fucking $1 word would suffice and everything like that. I'm gonna shoot him in the face. But you don't shoot them in the face, and that's great. Alex, we were we work really well with each other, and I think we work in tandem with each other. Like even when we surprise each other, we're going towards the same thing. And I think we were both because we both had been wanting to show the fallen move and everything. And I was just waiting for the right moment for it. And I was like, this is the perfect moment for it right here. And like you queued it up super well. It was like we were playing volleyball. You said it really well, and I spiked it down. And then, we celebrated together. We did an ACE chant. And then I went to a lot of volleyball games during college. Don't judge me. But you like it's really awesome to always be able to collaborate with you, whether it's through play or through writing or creating or anything like that. Like you also have such an understanding of like media in general. So you get things. And it's always great to experience because I am surrounded by not a lot of people, but I'm surrounded by people that are not very media literate and everything. And so like, and it tells when you're running a game. There's a lot of like people like I have people in my life that don't understand sci-fi at all, but they can get by playing sci-fi. That's at least something they can get by and understand. And like they're like, okay, I'm not running thing. But you can tell when somebody doesn't understand sci-fi. Just like with westerns. A lot of people just think it's like, yeehaw, got my cowboy, I'm a cowboy, baby. And it's not that. It's lonesome. It's starving and dying of thirst in the middle of a town, and it's eyes are on you everywhere, and even in like this lonesome arid climate, like you're constantly being watched. And uh, you do such a really good job with like ghostly sense and atmosphere and everything. So yeah, so those are stars. And wishes is come back, Daniel. I want
Uh,
Daniel. I want an Arkansas Calvo, Arkansas X Ruth. Let's get our
please.
Ruth and Saw shippers out there and get them fed.
Ruth and
Jesus
Saw.
Christ. Yeah, I'll go. That was awful. Ruth and Saw. No, I really loved this session. We got to focus in on some really solid character moments there. Yeah, got a star, the mother Ruth. Not just the scene with the bullet hole and the detail about how like the bullets rattling in your throat. That was a very brutal and I love it, but just the exorcism itself, what a rad concept. Um, God, doing the bounty hunter's face, cramped the fuck out of my face. I was just like, I was like, my face hurts. This sucks, but I was happy to keep doing it because it was fun. We
It's like
suffer
when I
for our
used to do
craft.
my Two-Face face when I was a
Yeah.
kid, and I'm like, I'm Two-Face from Batman. I'm talking out. And it's like, nope, I hate that.
I hate it hurts so much, but it was good for the character. But that was fun. I really loved the scene in the hallway with Andrew, especially the narration of how you handled the breaking and entering, but also just the masks you gave were very fucking cool. Now I see what you mean when you had previously mentioned that this character had some connection to an undeniable from another between game. And I'm like, well, there it is. There it fucking is. That's cool. The detail of the sun tattoo is also rad as hell. And I mean, obviously, B loved the standoff confrontation with Dr. Clarkson in the street. That was fun, especially just kind of the illusions of like you got to stop what you're doing. Not for any like Death's opinion of that is far more sinister than any other person. So that was very cool. And also the pestilence scene was rad. Yeah, I mean, wishes. Well, I will say that because I ended in the middle of the day phase. Next session, we will continue day phase, and I will introduce the last ride of Blackheart Vermilion because it's the same day phase, so therefore it should be introduced. And that way we can have something. God, we're having a stacked fucking thing. Yeah, let's see. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I want to see more of everything all the time, always. So I'm just excited to have Daniel back.
Yeah, I again, I gotta give a star for Graves for like trying to go to like this other threat, but then getting interrupted by Ghost Be Gone Menace, Dr. Clarkson, and just being like, oh no, I have to handle this some way. And then just like, oh God, there's people here. Oh no, they want to touch me. Oh no, oh no. Uh, um, and Mother Calvo just God, that scene of where you got shot, I was like intending to like sneak on out of there. I was just ready, and then the shooting, I was just like, no, Harrington would stay. He couldn't do that. He couldn't leave you behind. So and just the terror of like of getting other people shot and just seeing the marshal, it just like, oh, my heart. I'm also very excited to reveal more about Harrington because technically speaking, Harrington is a little bit unreliable narrator because he doesn't know what he is. But I do know what he is. So yeah, I look forward to that. I look forward to him getting weirder, getting in more in touch of what he is, and perhaps eventually writing a custom move. But that's a little bit down the line yet. Because I need to figure out how to get XP with him better because boy, it's been a slow ride.
Any other stars or wishes? Then I will see you all next time. Let us wave goodbye to the camera.